What's going on, everybody? I'm your boy Retro Bliss, and you are on Retro Bliss Rewind. And we have got a great show lined up for you tonight. We are going to talk about what it's like to be a content creator on YouTube, and specifically what it's like to be a video game content creator on YouTube. And we've got some great guests tonight, and I'm going to bring them to the stage before we get any further. First, I'm going to bring Mike from Mike's Gaming Gala. And I'm going to bring Dr. Scott. And then last but not least, we're going to bring Mr. Poe Style. What's going on, fellas?
Hey.
Can I just really briefly say, because I know Jerome already mentioned it, we were supposed to be talking about the Sega Master System tonight. Unfortunately, Brian, BD Retro Mods couldn't make it. So that's going to be next week. We pivoted, and we've got two awesome guys here.
There's
there was
not
a little
time to say that. Sorry.
There's a family emergency. There's a family emergency. I can't go into it, but we weren't unable to do that show tonight. So that will be next week. All right. So, but we are going to have a good show, and it's going to be an interesting show. This was kind of Mike's idea because after we realized we couldn't do the Sega Master System tonight, we were kind of thinking, well, what can we talk about? And we thought this would be a good topic to talk about. And so everybody starts somewhere when they're a content creator on YouTube. It starts somewhere, and it first starts with an idea. And it's you start with deciding to start a channel. You have to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
So I'll start with you, Mike. Let's go with you first. When did you decide to start a channel?
You want the honest to goodness truth?
Yeah, we have an hour show, though.
I first decided to do a channel in 2011, and I never did. So it's not the deciding, it's not the having the great idea. Back then, I went, because I used to do a lot of fixing consoles and doing all that. So I actually built myself a rig for a top-down camera, and I got a mic and everything, and I did a couple little test shoots, and I never started my channel. And I made excuse after excuse after excuse. And then finally, it was the fall of 2022. I was like, the last few years have been tough. They've been hard financially. They've been hard just like with stuff going on in life. I mean, and that's probably true with a lot of people, just the way the world has been the last few years. And I desperately needed some kind of creative outlet. And I was just like, screw it. I'm finally going to do it. And I was looking, I'm like, okay, I could talk about, like, because I've got a collection now. I could talk about video games. I could talk about movie props and TV props. I collect and do that stuff. There's lots of different things. History. I'm a big history fan. But then I looked and I was like, you know what? I've got connections with guys like William Muller and Michael Thomason and, all these guys in television community. I've got a stack of about 80 homebrews here. And whenever I go and look in a store and I'm like, oh, that game looks interesting. And then the first thing I always do is I go on YouTube and I try to see, okay, what does this game look like? What does it play like? And you had probably about a 50% success rate in finding it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the homebrew review guy. And I'm not going to lock myself to one system. I'm going to cover lots of stuff. And it wasn't until Space Pac-Man by Ricardo Pym that I finally...
Great game.
I got the idea, and I almost didn't do it for like the funny intro. And I was like, oh, let me try it. Might be a little cringe or whatever. And that video, at least compared to my others, went up. And so that's become kind of my trademark now. I do a stupid intro and then I review the game seriously. But yeah, like for me, it was just, I need a creative outlet. I need to do something creative because I don't have time to do anything else. And I can force myself to do this.
Well, that's cool. How about you, Scott? What made you decide to start?
What made me decide? I wish I could remember what actually made me decide. Other than I used to be I still am. I'm a big I'm a very big fan of Classic Game Room, Mark Busler's Classic Game Room, and
Love Mark.
absolutely love Mark. And when I started getting into watching more YouTube and gaming YouTubers, I discovered him, and I was like, "Where the hell's this guy been?" I'm like, he's just hilarious. And
He is funny.
And then I discovered Metal Jesus and a few other people, and some smaller folks too. And then I said, well, I'm a weirdo. I can do this. So, and I've always been a performer, whether it be, I used to play trombone in high school and college, and
I heard you play the flute, but go ahead.
no, I gave that up for Lent.
Okay.
And
I'm mad at you now, Phil, for making this a PG show because I could have ran with that.
I know. There was a trombone and
I
a flute
thought he
joke
played
in
the
there.
flute.
well, there was a friend of mine named Sanchez, but we won't talk about him. But anyway, so during, like, right before the pandemic started, I was like, well, hey, I think I'm going to, get this thing started. I started doing a lot of research. What do I need to do? And as a matter of fact, in about 2000, I want to say it was about 8 years ago, a friend of mine, she wanted to start a YouTube channel, and we tried, and it was going to be just like a movie review show. And for the life of us, we couldn't figure out how, and I'm not a computer moron or anything, but we could not figure out how to get things connected up so we could upload videos and things like that, and it just kind of petered out. And she lives about 30 miles away from me anyway, so eventually I was talking to my wife, and I said, I think I'm going to do this. And after about a year and a half of research, and then we moved, and I was like about to start the channel. I'm like, well, we were going to move, and then I waited again, and I said, darn it, I'm just going to turn the camera on and get the first ones out, because I remember seeing some of the gurus that I would watch that would say, just turn on the camera and do it. No matter how bad it's going to be, or you think it's going to be, just turn on the camera and do it, and you will improve. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I have I'm a graphic designer by trade anyway. I'm an artist. I have my fine arts degree. I've always had this knack of putting things together, and one way or the other, things have just fallen together as we've gone. And the funny thing is, anybody watching right now, if you were to go back and watch anyone's first videos, you might go, oh, sometimes they're not that bad, but we as the creators, if we watch our own first videos, we will be going, oh.
Well, and it's funny because, like, in everything, like, I'm one of those jack of all trades, master of none, often still better than a master of one. But like the master carpenter, like the world's greatest carpenter, still started with a crappy birdhouse in high school. Yeah. Everybody starts somewhere. Someplace. You don't start as a master.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about you? What about you, Poe? What got you started? I know the answer, but I want everybody else to know.
Yeah, well, it's definitely my son that begged me to do it. Now, to get me back into collecting, I worked for a steel mill, you know that. 2015, we were locked out. We couldn't come to a contract decision. So then I have time on my hands, right?
Union strong, baby.
Yeah. So while we're sitting there on the picket lines, I'm thinking, I wanted to build an arcade cabinet. But of course, there's no money coming in, so I had no money to do that. But that's when I got into watching YouTubers, And so I think, just like you said, I got into Classic Game Room, and he doesn't live far from me. I got into that, and then the Gaming Historian, the Game Chasers, I start watching all of these guys. And I think, well, why not just build my collection? I have my NES and my Atari. So as soon as we got back to work, I said, I want to buy all of the old consoles that I knew about but never had as a kid. So then I just kind of spread myself thin. I'm buying Intellivision, ColecoVision, TurboGrafx, and all the games for everything. And then I discover EverDrives. So I'm like, well, I can't collect everything, so I can do ROMs and this and that. Right. And pretty soon my son came to me, and YouTube for that generation, that was the stars of the silver screen for them, YouTubers. He's telling me all these names of people that I've never heard of. And he said, Dad, you have so many games and you play so many games, why don't you have a YouTube channel? And I'm like, that's not for me, But again, just like Dr. Scott said, I used to perform a lot. My friends had camcorders in the late 80s, early 90s and stuff, and we were always doing stupid shit, like Jackass before there was Jackass, and I used
PG.
to. Whoops.
Well, Jackass isn't that's not
No,
Jack
the
profanity.
other
Jack
word
R's.
was. The other word he said before that wasn't PG.
But and I did plays, in school. I especially elementary school. I didn't mind being the lead of plays because I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I was the ham of the family, so why not be in front of a camera and do something? So the very first. Oh, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. After you're done, I'll follow up with something.
Yeah. So the very first thing I did was I got New Wave Toys, the Dragon's Lair little cabinet, and I was so impressed with this thing because when I saw the real thing at a local Hills department store when I was a kid, and all the teenagers were playing this thing, I thought that was the most awesome arcade cabinet I'd ever seen. So when New Wave Toys came out with that, I had to order the thing. So that was my first video I ever made for my channel 3 years ago. And it's very cringy to watch that thing now. I won't watch anything I make right now. I even hate watching it when I'm editing it, if you can call it editing. It's not like these guys. I just slap it together.
Break out the popcorn and get me some Kool-Aid out, man. That's what I do.
The only thing that I really have to watch when I edit is when I put it on our show for SteamYard for G Parker for Sunday nights, because he tells me, you got to keep it under this amount of time and this amount of this and that, or else, it won't fit to go on SteamYard. So I got to follow his parameters, and most of the time I don't even do that. He has to edit it for me. But yeah, SteamYard's like a different animal altogether.
I got it.
Obviously, I ramble like I'm doing right here, and
that's okay.
Those guys let me know about that all the time.
That's okay.
But
it's like, okay, we got.
So this is what you're doing.
Right.
This is what I want you to do.
Right. Our show is supposed to be an hour show like this show, but if you look in my playlist,
it never
the last one. The last one this past Sunday went like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it wasn't PG at all. And that's mostly my fault. Man, I get those guys started, and then Off Grid goes on to the rated R and rated X, and it's after hours. But no. But yeah, my son kept trying to talk me into it, and then we started it. And so I said, since you really wanted me to do this channel, come on in and we'll play some games together. People will really dig the father-son thing. And he did one video in this whole 3 years together with me and decided he didn't want to be in front of the camera.
Yeah,
so
figures that's the way kids do. So what were you going to add, Mike?
I was going to add, like they both mentioned that they were performers. When I was a kid, I was always the one that went to our, I had their video classes and stuff. It was like the big, massive VHS cameras. I was always the behind the scene guy. And I would rent out the camera, and I have 5 younger brothers, and I'd get friends over, and we'd make movies on the weekend, and then I'd edit them during the week with the 2 VCRs. And actually, that reminded me that, so during COVID, my company had a work from home challenge, and like every week it was a different challenge. Tell us or show us what you do in your time off, or show us how you keep busy, or what you do with family and stuff like that. And so I made videos with my kids, spoofing the topic, each theme, and I uploaded them to my personal YouTube channel, which predated this one. And that's what kind of gave me and we did some really funny ones. Like I did a Beverly Hillbillies themed one. And it was like, coronavirus, COVID-19, right? It's like, come and listen to my story about a man named Mike. He worked for Ross Video, a job he really liked. And up out of China came a virus cruel and mean, a global pandemic like the world has never seen. And I did the whole thing.
That's awesome, man.
So that's what predates this. So I've always been a ham as well, but I was usually behind the camera.
That's pretty cool. Well, let me tell you my story real quick. I was getting ready to retire, and I'm a musician, and Tez is on here, and Tez, myself, and Poe go way back, and Tez, before we go too further, I don't want you to mention any of our common friends by name on the chat, okay? We're going to be talking about one of them, and I don't want you to mention his name on the channel or on the chat, okay? And we'll talk a little later about that privately. But anyway, I was getting ready to retire, and I'm good at kind of good at two things. I'm a musician like Tez, and I like video games, although for many years I was more of a PC gamer. But at the time I was getting ready to retire, I had a PS3. That's basically all I had. I had maybe 15 games. And I thought, well, I'm going to break this thing out. And I realized that the controllers were bad. So I got on Amazon and I bought some aftermarket controllers from them. And I thought, because I had looked on YouTube and I saw some controller reviews. And I thought, man, people are making controller reviews. I'll do one on my cell phone, see what goes on. So I made this like 3-minute controller review with my cell phone. I just did audio with my voice, and I just pointed it towards the controller while I'm talking, you know, and the thing got 3,000 hits, you know, and I thought, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. I guess I'm going to do some, you know, maybe work on some video game stuff. Yeah. So that's when I kind of decided, you know, although music's kind of my thing, you know, too, but I've also learned that you can't put too many eggs in one YouTube basket. You know, you can have multi-channels, but you shouldn't put too many things on one channel.
We can talk about that as we move forward.
That's
yeah.
So anyway, that's when I decided to do the gaming thing for my channel. So that's when I made my decision. So let's talk about the mistakes going forward. And since I'm talking now, let me talk about my mistakes first, okay? So I can remember some of my first videos, and you guys can remember some of your first videos too, and you were talking a little bit about those. So, all right, some of my first videos were actually homebrews, and one of my first homebrews was Conquest of Mars by John Champeau, which was one of his earlier homebrews.
That's a good
and as many of you guys know, as content creators, what we do, many of you guys don't know what goes on behind the scenes when we do our content creating. We write scripts before, you know, we don't just turn the camera on and you know, let her rip. We kind of write a script out and we talk it out or in a mic or whatever, and there's some of us do more editing than others, in my case, because I can't talk straight. But anyway, I can remember getting out my pen and piece of paper or whatever, and I'm writing out my script, and I've got my review for Conquest of Mars out, and I can remember I got my camera out, and I'm trying to, you know, I want to be personable because I do have a little bit of I have a little acting ability, but I can remember being, Conquest of Mars is a really great game. You go down these tunnels, and as you're going down, you have to shoot these fuel tanks to maintain your fuel levels while avoiding the sides of the walls. and I'm just going down, you know, and I'm doing this, you know, through the whole.
You don't realize you sound that monotone.
No, you don't.
You sound fine.
Yeah, and I didn't really realize what I was doing, and I don't know how many videos that I did before it really dawned on me that, hey, you know, people are not digging this. You know, they're not digging this. I need, you know, the definition of insanity. You know, you got to change things up a little bit. And, you know, what do I want to hear? I want to hear someone that's excited, right? I want to hear someone that knows what they're talking about, and I want to hear someone that's excited about what they're talking about. And so that's what I've tried to do on the channel. And you know, all of us here are continuing to make content, and we're continuing to make mistakes. We make mistakes every day on our channels. We're still making mistakes on our channels. There's still things that we don't do right, but we still continue on. And so as a content creator, that's what I would suggest for those of you who are thinking about starting a channel is don't wait till you think you got all your ducks in a row and then start. I would just, you know, get your
lessons there's lessons that you're going to learn that you cannot learn until you're doing it.
Right.
And you can't be afraid to try new things. I mean, I was really kind of iffy about OBS and doing that kind of thing, for the longest time. And I finally just jumped in and did that, because if I did anything on screen, I was just putting the camera in front of my CRT for old games and stuff like that, And finally, I went ahead and did it, and I'm still learning it as I go. But I mean, it's a lot cleaner picture for my videos. So
quality, and you know how big a fan I am of your Popeye series, and it started out on CRTs and stuff.
Right.
And just the quality difference is huge. It's a huge improvement. Yeah, I'm there for the commentary. I'm not there for necessarily the picture. But
he does have a face for radio. But go ahead.
I've
heard
got
that
faces
before.
for radio. but no, and absolutely, and really, the goal for me is maybe not necessarily video to video, but month to month. I want this month's videos to be better in some way to last month's videos.
Yeah.
And if you can continue to do that, then eventually you're going to have pretty good quality. Like when I started, okay, I'll move on to one of my biggest mistakes. When I did my first video, my biggest mistake was thinking I could wing it. Anybody who watches any of my videos where I'm just kind of talking about, like even my video from this morning, the thank you for the 1,000 subscribers. There's a lot of I am not great at winging it. This is a little different because it's like talking with friends, right? But so very shortly, I think maybe third episode, I started scripting. And that was a big improvement. And my camera is right in between my two computer monitors here. And so I would have the script up there and I'd memorize a line, say a line, memorize a line, say a line. And then investing in my channel, trying to do things a little better, I spent $150.
Oh yes, I've seen that
teleprompter that clips on the front of my camera, and this took my recording on camera stuff from 2 hours to 30 minutes, like that.
What is that thing?
It's a teleprompter.
I've just seen that recently.
Clips on the front of my camera, and you don't see it. But I put my phone in the bottom of it, and I can actually bring up the app here.
Wow, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, there's one that for the iPad
for scripted content, yeah. And it's got a little remote. But here, if I kind of,
that is so cool. So does it automatically scroll as you talk, or does it just roll?
You set the speed, and then it's got a little remote control to start and stop it. And so then the key with this, though, and at the start I was a little wooden, and then I started to get better at sounding natural while reading, because I wrote the words. Like, it's my voice, but you have to sound natural. You can't sound like you're reading.
So I need to find a way to hack that. And put little funny things in there so that you say the wrong things, like an anchor man.
Because I have had the problem of text messages popping up when I'm trying to do it, I always go into airplane mode when I'm doing that. So.
Now, that's not a bad idea, because for my videos, I throw video clips in that I screen record. And sometimes while I'm doing that, I'm like, okay, I want 5 minutes of this. Then I'm getting text messages from Off Grid Arcade or G Parker, and all of a sudden it's popping up on there. I'm like, son of a gun! I got to start all over again.
See, there's a new setting that within the last couple versions of, I think it was the new version of iOS, because I use iPhone, that you can actually set any application to the personal, what is that called, the mode where it won't disturb you, the do not disturb.
Oh yeah, you can put do not disturb mode, but I just go airplane mode, full airplane mode.
But I now have mine set to anytime I turn the camera on, because I sometimes I use the camera app, but I have a separate camera app that I use for filming a lot of the time that has a lot of settings that the regular iPhone camera doesn't have. So anytime that gets turned on, automatically nobody can contact me. So
Oh, nice.
that way I'm not getting those. But similarly, because when the place I used to work, we had a videographer, and they had a lot of great equipment and stuff, and I still have not been able to find a decent teleprompter is going to cost you upwards of $250 to $300 for the iPad.
Proper one, yeah.
Yeah, but I've had two clunky ones here through Amazon, and I've sent them both back. So until I find one that I like, or until I have the money to spend an extra $300, because I'd rather spend $300 on some good mics, the DJI mics that I have, than a clunky piece of junk that's just going to sit there on occasion, So, but I mean, we all have our priorities. But what I ended up doing is I do have an old iPad, and I have an iPad stand. And what I do is I actually take my script, and it's pretty much the exact same one that Mike has there. It's a teleprompter app, and you can turn it on. But what my wife does, she always films with me. 99% of the time she films with me. And she'll just manually move this. I can't stand it when it's scrolling, because I can set it too fast, too slow, and it just makes me crazy. But I put this right behind where the lens is on the on my camera, right behind, because I use my iPhone and it's all 4K, and then I
Best camera on the planet.
Yeah, right there. I see it right there. It'll be a little bit better once I have the proper, the proper teleprompter, and a little easier too. But I'm sure that Lynn will probably still be there going, okay. And I'll go, no, back it up. Because otherwise, like Mike said, you have the remote, but it's just so much easier for me to have somebody there doing it for me, especially since she's in sync with what I want to do. Or she'll be like, you missed a word, you used the wrong word there. And I'll tell her, if you hear me go a little off script, that's fine. But when I was doing my video last week on Xbox Series X, she said, she actually chimed in and said, you just said Xbox here, and you didn't specify Xbox Series X, and it really needs that there. I go, okay, so we'll go back and we'll fix it. So it's
like she's your producer.
She essentially is my producer. She really is.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, I do all the writing and all the editing and everything else, but there's two things that she definitely does. Sometimes she throws me ideas. She goes, it'd be funny. It'd be good. And sometimes I will use that as she gives it to me. But a lot of the time I just take the ball and I run with it. And then if she hears me in here in my office giggling about something, and I go, hey, come here a second, I know that there's like somebody face palming in the other room going, oh gosh, what is he doing now? Because it's always going to be something that if it doesn't make me laugh, odds are it's not going to make somebody else laugh. And I have a fairly twisted sense of humor anyway. And my sense of humor is a little bit British, too. So sometimes my stuff will not translate well.
This is probably why I like your videos so much. I have the exact same humor.
Yep.
Well, I think that's why the four of us are together.
Well, I love you, Poe, but we're not together.
No.
I don't know, but you and Scott might be, because I know after the show he's got something he's going to wear after the show behind him there.
Yeah, that's right here. Well, I imagine you're probably going to bring that up, in the next half hour, about cost or props.
Well,
and stuff.
we can actually go. You guys kind of started that already. The more your channel grows, the more you may or not be able to spend money on it. Now, I'm monetized, but that doesn't mean a whole lot.
No.
I was talking with a few of you guys today about this. John Hancock, he just recently did a video the last few days on certain people dropping out and stopping their channels. And he spoke a bit about being monetized. Now, John Hancock has a few 100,000 subscribers.
Right.
He has a full-time job, and he spoke about being monetized. Now, I'm monetized. I have not been monetized for very long. Okay, I'm not making Jack.
Yeah.
Okay. But John Hancock has been doing this for a while. He's been doing this for like 13 years or so. He's been monetized for a while. And he said on his video, he said that the amount of time that he puts into it, and he only does a couple videos a week, amounts to about minimum wage. And he has a couple 100,000 subscribers.
Mind you, that is probably in YouTube revenue.
That's in YouTube revenue now. That's not in the other stuff.
That doesn't include his Patreon. That doesn't include people mailing him rare things.
All right.
That's not him getting and you know, and I love John. I mean, I've you know, talked with John many times, and he's a very nice person no matter what some people do say about him. I think he's very much on the level. He's you know, he's a very common, down to earth kind of a guy. But when you do have a large audience, and I said something about this in my last week's video, when you are what they call an influencer, these companies will come out of the woodwork to go, hey, you want to review this? Can I mail you something? Can I give you something? Yeah. And you don't have to do, and you know, and Mike even touched on his video today. He was just like, you know, I feel if you're going to send me something, I owe you a review. I don't have to, it doesn't have to be a good review. It doesn't have to be a bad review, but I do owe you a review. At the same time, you know, I would imagine that because there's a video that I have coming up, and the two of you gentlemen know about that. I did email John about that. John is busy, and I would imagine John's inbox has a heck of a lot more stuff in his inbox than mine.
Yeah.
So he can't sift through everything all the time. Number two, you know, he's got some stuff that's been going on with his family for the past year, and thank God it's been going well, you know, and better than it was. And he's also a school teacher, so he's dealing with our brats. No, I mean that facetiously. But he also can't review everything that everybody wants to send him either, because otherwise he's going to have to hire a team of people just to help him with that. But the flip side of that coin is, just like Mike was saying in his video today, you know, if he wants to review a bunch of homebrews, and homebrews don't cost $25, they're 50 and up, between $50 and $70 and up. And most of those he's paying for himself, just like, and I had them here on the table, you know, these games here, I don't buy them, you know, for like $4. Now, some of the ones I have are cheap, but when these come out, I'm paying full price for this stuff. I don't buy tons of games all the time, and if I do get them, a lot of the time I'm getting old stuff too for like $2, $3. Yep. But if somebody's sending someone codes to review, just like my friend on Square Pegs, Jay Malone, he was talking about in his video, it was either today or yesterday, that of the 10 games that he had on there, he did request codes, and I think he said he got codes for all of them but one, I believe. And that's great. But the larger you get, I hate to say it like this because this doesn't...
The more free stuff you get.
Thank you. The more free stuff you get. So...
because you then have... Basically, you come with an audience. So good review, bad review. I mean, obviously, everybody's going to prefer a good review. But, you know... I paid for this, but let's say somebody sends me this and not a lot of people know about it, but I have 100,000 subscribers. Well, now, theoretically anyway, but let's say the video gets 20,000 views. 20,000 people now know that this exists. Yeah.
And so if 1%...
There's nothing wrong with that.
And if 1% of that 20,000 people, if 1% of them say, I'm going to buy that, heck, even if 1/10 of 1%, you know, that's a good haul for that company.
The cost to mail me the game.
Yeah.
Now
that's why you're an influencer, right?
Right.
And, you know.
Now there was somebody one time that said something to me. Well, you're just jealous that you're not big enough to be getting all that stuff, and I'm like, I'm not necessarily jealous. No, it would be nice to be recognized occasionally, because I'll be honest. I'm just putting this out there. No one has ever given me anything ever, and I've asked. And
will you please give me something?
Yeah, and I've asked. Capcom just about told me to go.
So did Atari, from what I understand. They're not very nice either.
Well, listen, there's a difference, though. If you pre-order something, whether you're an influencer or a regular person that pre-ordered, you should get your stuff. It shouldn't be sent to the influencer first,
and then
because
the schmuck that orders 2 weeks later on Amazon gets it first.
right. So what did I do with the 400? I ordered it through Amazon and not through Atari, because Amazon said that I'm going to get it on the 29th of March. If I ordered it through Atari, who knows when I would get it?
Can I answer the Unpatched Gamer?
You can also show the comment right after it if you want to see my answer to it.
Okay. Well, actually,
yeah.
I actually have a little bit of an answer for that, because I am monetized, and I got my first check last week.
$100.
A little bit more than that, but not much more. And it's not much more than that. It wasn't 200. It was 160 some bucks, I think it was. And the reason why I probably could have got it earlier than that, but there were some other extenuating circumstances. But I also wanted to wait until after the first of the year.
Yeah.
But as far as accounting goes, that's a good question, Unpatched Gamer, because I'm wondering, and I was wondering, maybe you guys, we could put our heads together. Maybe we probably could talk to our accountants or tax person. How much of this that we do can be written off as tax?
So you have to start. I mean, I'm in Canada. It's a little different, but you have to start making money before you can write anything off.
Well, see, now I am. I'm not making much, but I am making.
But also, as a pensioner, drawing a pension, income could affect your pension.
Right.
Yeah,
so
but
you have
that's.
To be careful there.
I already know. I already know the limits on that.
The limits, okay.
Yeah, I've already got. I'm way under that. I'm way under that. As long as I'm making less than 18,000 a year, I'm okay. I'm way under that.
Well, a lot of people are unaware, Phil, that once you become actually fully monetized, that Google, Alphabet, YouTube, whoever you want to call them, they don't cut you a check until you have hit $100.
Yeah, you have to get $100 before they even send you anything.
And you could get thousands of views before you even see $100.
Yeah.
So that's where it people think, well, hey, I mean, John Hancock, he's got to be making a ton of money. I highly doubt it. I mean, if he's making anything, it's off of off of his home brews or things like that, and he's not making buku bucks where he can go go put new tires on his Maserati.
There's a reason. There's a reason that even big YouTubers, almost all of them, check out my Patreon. These are my Patreon subscribers. Yes. Join the channel. Get my merch. It's because the ad revenue. The fact of the matter is, if you are in YouTube for the money, you are on the wrong platform.
Oh yes.
If you want to be doing content, and you want money as kind of a more instant thing, Twitch. My brother is a Twitch streamer. He makes about 50 grand a year doing that. Now, he streams for 60 hours a week. He streams for 60 hours a week.
Yeah,
it's a job for him.
They have to have a schedule.
And he's on almost every day. But, I don't know about you guys. I have a feeling you're very similar. I didn't start this to make a cent. And just last year alone, I invested a lot of money in my channel because I like it. This is my hobby. I feel like I'm providing a service. I feel like I'm part of a community. Like all of it, we're like the June buddies. If we had BCB here, this would be like the whole set.
Yeah.
And none of that would have happened if I didn't invest in my channel and try to make good content and review an Atari game that then the programmer of recommended me to like that. And it's just that community and doing something fun and enjoying ourselves. If I never see a cent, I'm okay with that.
I see it
At the
as,
same time, if I make millions of dollars, I'm okay with that too. I'm not going to complain about that. But
no.
if you're
At
wanting to make, if you're joining YouTube to make money, people are going to see through you really quick because your content's going to be fake.
Right.
Yeah. At 50 years old, I don't have many people locally that I can talk about the Atari and the ColecoVision with anymore. Guys at
Maybe
work look at me
Atari. Maybe Atari.
maybe Atari, right? But guys at work that I talk about, hey, I'm playing this Nintendo game or this or that, they're just kind of like, why don't you
You
grow
still
up?
do that at your age?
I did.
Yeah.
I did that at 13. You know, well, so did I. But I like to relax in the evening. I'm at home alone a lot by myself in the evening. It's my hobby, and I just happen to. If I'm going to play a game, why not make a video about that game, right? Yeah, and I love the new stuff too. I love the VR, PlayStation VR 2, Quest 2. I love Fairchild. I love VR. I love it all. So I just put it out there. I think that's probably one of the things you're talking about, mistakes you can do by covering too much on your channel. I cover it all. I don't care about subscriber count, obviously, as much. If I like conversation, that's why I have my channel out there. If you want to tell me stories about your video gaming, if you like the new stuff. And I know my VR stuff doesn't get many hits, but I love playing the stuff, so I put it out there.
Big thing for me, VR content, it just makes me nauseous.
And it doesn't translate well. It doesn't translate because whenever I go into a game like Moss or something like that, the ooh and the ah is for real because I'm seeing it in VR. It's all around me in my living room.
Yeah.
But when you're watching it on YouTube, it just kind of looks crappy.
It's just,
honestly,
it's like it's a movie that they shot with a really crappy camera person.
Right. Yeah. You have to be there to see it.
Yeah, 100%. I find like I do retro game reviews, but every time I try a game for a new system, that review doesn't do very well. And I have to do a few of them to start to get those numbers up. So Intellivision and Atari and Vectrex, those are kind of my bread and butter. Those videos always do pretty well, especially the Atari and Intellivision ones.
Yeah.
But I've got, like, this week is a game, this one right here, Traumatarium for the Game Boy. Great game, by the way, but I guarantee it's not going to do great. Game Boy games don't do great on my channel because the people watching my channel, and I'm trying to broaden that audience, which is why I space them out. They're mostly the Atari and Intellivision guys. So it's a matter of, okay, drawing in new people. Vectrex. I love the Vectrex. I actually have a Cavern Rescue game I need to do, but I need to do a whole setup because I set up lights and everything because you got to film it off the screen. Getting on a tangent. But like, for instance, if I'm big into the props, I'm big into history and all that. If I just randomly dropped here's a movie prop that's really cool video, A, it wouldn't do well, and B, it would mess up the algorithm. Every time YouTubers complain about the algorithm, almost every time, it's something they did to mess it up. And because you need to teach it over a long period of time, what kind of content, what kind of people that they need to push it to. And if you start going all over the place, there are a few people that get away with it, like a PewDiePie or a Markiplier. They could go on and do anything because they're character channels. People tune in for them. They don't really care so much about what they're doing.
Angry Video Game Nerd, same thing. I mean, he Cinemassacre channel does movies, and then you'll see the nerd occasionally. The movies about this, the movies, and then James Rolfe playing with his shaved-headed buddy. I don't remember his name. I mean, I have a shaved head too. So, but they'll be doing that. But it's just like the main bread and butter of the channel. Why most people were tuning in is not his movie reviews and stuff. Well, I will throw this in real quick though. He did this thing on it was about a year ago on he was comparing the book Dracula to about 30 different movies, and he's like, there's tons and tons of offshoots and tons of versions, but I'm only gonna get it down to at least 32. And he goes, I want to boil it down to the one that is closest to the book, and he got it down to 2, and I was like, oh, I hope the one that the one that's my favorite, and it didn't end up being the one, but it was a really great video. So if you want to watch that, tune in. But I have movies and stuff on my channel. Every 2 weeks, we just kind of do a review of, usually it's an 80s movie, something machismo or funny or whatever. And I did have it on a separate channel, but it wasn't doing anything. And when I was streaming it to both channels, it was always doing something okay over on Game Closet. So I was like, well, I'm just going to pull the James Rolfe and just keep it on Game Closet. And I shut Video Vault Live down. Now it's just a show on my Game Closet channel.
Yeah. But the difference between all of us and James Rolfe is James Rolfe. I watched James Rolfe, like the angry, back when he was the angry Nintendo nerd, prior to YouTube. And I remember being in college, my last year of college, and seeing like his first video, and it was shared on like an E-Bombs World or something like that. But he created that kind of online genre, and people were there for him and his shtick.
Yeah.
And that's why he gets away with it. I could not get away with that. I love cheesy 80s movies. If I put a video like that, and it might do decent, it might get okay views, but over time, that's going to kill the algorithm, at least for my channel.
And that's why I'm considering taking it back to a different channel, to the other channel, because I'll tell you this is what has happened. All right, two thoughts. One, Mike, just like you, I didn't get into this to make money. If I ended up making some money of some kind, to pay for a game here or there or some lights or something like that,
and bonus.
Great.
Yeah.
But the main reason why I decided to do it was an outlet, and number two, I love to make people laugh. Because if you're coming to me for a straight review, you've come to the wrong place.
Right.
Go to IGN, go to somebody else, go to anybody else, don't come to me. And then on top of that, I do get concerned about, and I know I shouldn't, and Jay Malone has taught me, and I'm trying to get more used to it. He's like, when you release the video, you've released the video, and that's it. He goes, you don't have to look at the numbers. You've done the best you could, and you're getting better every day. He goes, you've released the video, and that's it. But my problem with that as a performer is I want more people to watch. Yeah. Not just because, it's going to help monetize the channel. No, I don't care about that so much.
No, but you're creating this stuff for people to watch.
Right. Because who wants to be, I've been in many a play and hear the roar of the crowd. I don't get to hear the roar of the crowd. To me, the roar of the crowd is if I go to, like when I was at Torg this year, I have people coming up to me going, oh my gosh, it's Dr. Scott. I was like, what? I who the heck am I? I have like 3 people do that, and I'm just like, it stunned me. But if I'm on stage and I'm in a play and there's 3 people out in the audience, then why in the heck am I on the stage? I'll perform for those 3 people, but if laughter's the best medicine, I want to be your doctor. I want to make you laugh. And video games.
Is that where Dr. Scott comes from?
Actually, no. It does come from Doctor Who.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does come from Doctor Who because when I was taking Spanish in high school, I've told this story before. When I was taking Spanish in high school, Scott does not translate to Spanish. So I was 15 years old. I was in the Doctor Who, and I was just like, hey,
I'm the doctor.
I'm the doctor. El Doctor. And then that's how it kind of stuck. So that was it. That's the origin of it.
That's really guys, nerdy.
It is.
I know we've been talking about this particular topic for a second, but I want to kind of go to the next bullet point before we get going, because we've been talking about 50 minutes already.
They called me Pablo in Spanish class. My real name is Pat. They didn't have a name for that in Spanish. They called me Pablo in Spanish 1 and 2 because I had the same teacher. I'm not Pablo. My name is Pat.
Phil is in the middle of slapping our hands for not staying on topic, so go ahead, Phil.
Well, mine was Felipe.
Pablo.
Felipe. Okay.
Miguel.
Okay. I want to talk about the making of friends by having a channel.
Aww.
Now,
I thought you meant the show Friends. I didn't really watch that much.
Yeah, the making of friends. I wasn't into Friends. Okay. Well, Tez is on here. Tez is a good old friend of mine, and yes. He's a good old friend of Poe's too. and which kind of brings me to what I was going to talk about. And I want to remind Tez not to bring up any names on the chat, but there was a common friend that we all had at one time. I was streaming. I started when I decided to do some live gameplay on the channel, and there was this gentleman who started popping in on the chat, and he was a fellow content creator. And so he subbed to my channel, and I subbed to his channel, and I was checking him out, and I kind of liked his channel, and he had a kind of a unique way of doing his gameplay. He was doing gameplay and something else while he was playing the game, which was something I had never seen before, and I thought, well, that's kind of unique. So
Yeah.
Anyway, in doing so, Tez showed up, and Poe was showing up. They just were there. And they were coming in on a regular basis. So I was popping in on Poe's channel, and Poe was popping in on my channel, and Tez was popping in on my channel, and I was popping in on Tez's channel. And next thing you know, we kind of all were becoming friends in that way. And so as content creators, that's where I kind of started becoming friends with some of the content creator aspects of it. But I also started becoming friends when I started doing live stream with a lot of you guys that are watching right now, that are in the chat and that may be watching, because there are a lot of you who tune into the live streams on this channel when I do a lot of live gameplay during the day, during the week. If nothing else, that's one reason why I do this channel. It's not so much, it has nothing to do with, like I said, I don't really make jack. That little tiny check that I got doesn't cover hardly anything that I put into this at all. Yeah. And but making a decision, setting things up, getting a thumbnail together, deciding, uploading it to YouTube, maybe practicing the game for 20-30 minutes before I actually get on
I've seen your stream. You don't practice the game.
He's out of here. Anyway. Okay. Anyway. But anyway.
On the left now. I need to move this so I can face the proper way.
To the left. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that kind of messed you up, didn't it? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay. I'm sliding my stuff over.
All right. So I do it because of the friendships that I've made in doing this. And the friendships have really meant more to me than anything else. Mm-hmm. And Scott even touched on some of that, and has actually spilled into some of the gaming conventions I've been to. I went to Pittsburgh when I met with Poe a few months back, and there were a few people walked up to me and said something to me there. And when I went up to Columbus for Torg, there were some people that said some things to me like they did to Dr. Scott when I was up there. It's just so cool to have that happen. So what's that like for you guys?
So obviously I've only been around for a little bit, but when I went to Portland, outside of the Intellivision community, like the group of guys that I kind of went with, there was 2 or 3 people that recognized me. I took a photo with one of them. It's kind of neat. It's just like, hey, I'm a mini celebrity for 3 people, but I'll take it. It was neat.
That's pretty much how it was for me at Torg. This was the first time I ever, was recognized by anybody. And it was, a couple people who, of course, watched the channel, and they actually have a channel themselves, and I won't say who it is because I don't want to embarrass them. But they, the one guy said, because they're not only their friends, they're cousins, and they said, oh yeah, he was when he saw you, he was just really fanboying, and I was just like, for me, I was like, he's like, oh yeah, he loves you. Well, I love your stuff too, but he just loves your stuff, and I'm just like. Well, that it's weird because it's like I'm not Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not, I'm not Tony Stark. I can't remember the guy's name.
Robert Downey Jr.
Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. I mean, I'm, who the heck am I? It made me feel good because, especially when they'll want to talk about something specific. Hey, how did you do this? Or this one video made me laugh, and I just it made me feel like what I was doing actually. It made it feel like it was worth doing. Just because one way or the other, maybe there's somebody out there that is having a bad time, and as a person who has suffered from depression myself, if there's somebody out there who's just getting out of bed in the morning and all they're doing is watching some YouTube, if I can get that one person to get a laugh, and they can say, well, if this dirtbag can do, get out of bed, and turn on the camera and do this stuff, well, then I might be able to get through another day and be able to get through this. And that's worth it.
Wow, we're saving lives here.
You'd be surprised at how many people you can just by showing up.
I know, I'm being cheeky.
Oh, I know you are, but still, I mean, I hate to be maudlin, but sometimes, we can be like, when I was going through my divorce many years ago, I used to watch the show MASH as a kid, and I've loved MASH. But when I was going through my divorce, that was the only thing I watched. And I mean the only thing I watched. And it was the only thing that I could tune into, and it was actually, feeding me and keeping my sanity. So if there's anybody out there like that, whether it's us or Mark from Classic Game Room or PewDiePie, and they're tuning into someone, and that's their connection to just being human and sane and getting through the day, then by God, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, everybody has their thing. Love MASH, by the way. Everybody has their thing, right? And that's why I do my channel. I'm not recognized by anybody, by the way. The only gaming show I do is Pittsburgh because it's close. I don't have time for anything else. And I was really not feeling well at all when I went this year.
But that's because you go as regular Mr. Poe style and not as old Poe.
Well, you're right there, too. If I went as old Poe, if I could get the makeup and go. But just seeing Phil and 8-Bit Millie is a friend of mine, and he makes games.
Just seeing you made it worth my 4.5-hour trip, brother. I'll tell you what.
And I got to meet John Riggs and buy a couple games off of him.
And Cannabis Kid. Don't forget about
Cannabis. And Cannabis Kid. I got to meet Cannabis. I didn't get to play any games with you guys there, though.
Cannabis.
But it made my son happy to go, and he got to buy some games for his handheld collection. And we played a few arcade and pinball games, and then we got the heck out of there. So, but nobody came up to me and said, "Mr. Postal," but I wasn't expecting that either. So,
well, if I ever see you at a convention, you damn right I'm going to.
I'll do it.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm 6'2", 335. And I see Poe, and I'm looking up. I'm like, what?
Well, I saw you, and I did get the biggest smile on my face. So I was really happy to see you there. Because the year before,
you, brother.
Well,
the year before, I did see one guy that I work with. But I mean, on your day off, do you really want to see somebody from the steel mill? No, you don't.
Well, that's like that. The first time, like when I was at Torg this past year, the first time I actually met Phil in person.
I felt the same way about you too, man. Yeah, that was awesome.
And my buddies from gosh, it's my own show and I can't remember the name of it. The Retro Roundtable. Retro Rob, who lives, and he's in the chat right now, or was. He lives in Texas, and my buddy Technish, aka Gene from Caps Off Gaming, he's in Boston. And Johnny Graphics, I met him last year at Torg, and we kind of got to talking, and I finally got to meet them in all four of us in the same room, and it was the if you watch my Torg video this year, it was really like it blew my mind to actually have all four guys in the same place. It was like almost like a family reunion. And I feel like we've known each other for years and years, and we finally get to see each other in the same room. And then, it's kind of like if you see a celebrity in person, even though we're all not technically celebrities, but you see a celebrity in person, it kind of makes them real. We can see each other on this screen all the time, but until we actually get in each other's presence, we actually have that real human connection, and we become real to one another.
And not only that, you guys, something we probably won't, when we're off air, there's a lot of conversation you guys that are on air do not get to share.
It's not as PG.
Yeah, well, not only that, some of it may not be, but there are a lot of things that we air out and we share our grievances with each other that we would not share with our audience.
The guys that I'm friends with on the show, Off Grid, the Gaming Road Warrior and G Parker, we've known each other for 2 years, as long as I've known you, Phil.
Yep.
And I've never met any of them in person. But we text each other every single day, right? We send funny videos to each other and Snapchats with filters and stuff like that. But I've never met any of those guys face to face,
Well, that's like Rob. I text him every day, and if I don't text him at least once a day, he's like, "You've been awfully quiet today."
Right? Yeah. It's like family. These guys are like worried. Hey, is everything okay? Are you in the hospital? What's wrong with it? We talk about it. I'll say, "Hey guys, I have a colonoscopy in a couple of weeks," and they'll be like, "Oh, send me the video." Maybe that's a little too much, but.
Hey, that's where that little.
Although I'm worried about meeting you guys in person one day because I'm used to being one of the taller guys around, but I'm only 6'1". You guys are giants.
Yeah, I'm like 6'5".
Yeah, both of these guys are taller than I am, and I'm 6'2". I'm the little dude between these two.
I'm the shrimp on the stream, and come on, man. It's bad enough that my son is 6'4". Okay,
my son's taller than me now, but he's a string bean. He eats way more than me, but he's skinny.
My son is a twig. You sneeze and he'll snap. And the funniest thing, because you said your son's joining the Air Force?
Yeah.
My son graduates high school. He'll be turning 18 in November, and then after New Year's, he's going to be joining the Canadian Army.
Oh, wow.
Be a communications officer. So something about string beans, they want to be in the military.
So awesome, but you hate to see them leave, though. That's for sure.
Oh, well, especially with the way the world is right now. But we're not going to get into that. I know we're at the 1 hour mark, and I know Phil is going to be like, no, why'd you start this now? But this is a question that I wanted to ask almost from the start, and we just never got to it. Time. How much time do you guys put into your content? And Phil, I know you're going to be like, oh, it's a stream. I sit down and do. I know you put a lot more time and thought and effort into your streams than the people would normally.
Well, I'll answer that. Let me answer then first. First of all, I have to choose a game. Sometimes that's the hardest part, and that's just the days that I choose a game. That has nothing to do with the Retro Bliss Ninja contest. The days on Mondays, not only am I choosing a game to stream, I have to pick the 2 games that everybody's going to be playing in the Retro Bliss Ninja contest for the new week. And then on Tuesday morning when I wake up, those of you who have submitted scores, I've got to get all those scores together. I've got to download all the photos. I've got to import those into OBS. I've got to put them in proper order so I can show them in OBS, and OBS is the software that we use to stream with. And then, there's a learning curve to the software, that takes time. People don't realize that, you don't just download a piece of software. Scott and these guys, probably have a little bit of background. I do too. But a lot of people may not understand or be as computer literate as others when they're starting a channel, and they might be intimidated when they see an OBS software and go, what is this? Well, how do you operate that? And then obviously when there's a homebrew involved, more than I probably. You've done more reviews, video game reviews, but I've done a number of video game reviews. You've got to play the game. Yeah. And then you got to script it.
You have to play it, and you have to play it enough to be able to speak authoritatively about it.
Exactly. That's what Scott was saying. We were talking about that. And then you have to script it out. And then you have an editing software. That's not OBS. I don't use OBS to edit. I have a totally other software for that. And then you edit it, and then you've got to upload it to YouTube, which is another beast altogether.
It's not hard. You click the upload button, you drag your video over.
That's the easiest part for me.
It is, but then you still have to write the YouTube description,
Yeah.
Yes, that one could be tougher.
and you have to make the
hashtag.
yeah, and then you have to do the thumbnail. And Scott and I both have a background in graphic design. We don't want to just post anything up there. We
Yeah.
do put a little time into it.
That's where I went wrong. Everything is Mr. Post Style, and I hate third person crap. But somehow, whenever I became Mr. Post Style, everything became third person. Mr. Post Style does this, that, and the other thing.
I love your thumbnails though; they're great.
Well, that's like this thumbnail from this past week of with the Xbox Series X. I was like, well, because a lot of the time, my wife takes the photos of me with, I'm holding something or pointing at something or whatever. But there are some times where I take a lot of pictures. Like, for example, when I did my Lollipop Chainsaw video, this is, of course, the cheerleader costume. I did some thumbnails in the cheerleader costume. There were, but this past week, I don't have a fireman's outfit, so I photoshopped myself into a fireman's costume, and I wanted to make it look really good. And I'm like, okay, well, the lighting has to be like this, and the shadows got to be here, and all. And then, of course, I can do a lot of that, a lot of manipulation in Photoshop, but it takes a lot of time, and sometimes that'll take a lot more time than sometimes in some of the videos, which that's not true, but it can feel that way. But if I'm doing like the Atari videos that I've done, except for the 2600 one for Pac-Man, because that one did take some time.
That was a good one, though. That was a great one.
Watch it.
That is one of my favorites. But
he's talking about that video. Yeah, actually, he actually, that's a great video. He's dissing Pac-Man, so as you were.
Yeah, I'm blowing that thing up everywhere I can. Well, the same thing with the Angry Video Game Nerd when I'm doing house sitting at his
really
house.
Good one as well.
The Pac-Man, it comes back with a vengeance. But if I'm doing something that has a shtick, that has, some skits or something throughout, that takes a lot of time, green screening, the cost of making props, the cost of buying things. And I know the Mike knows exactly what I'm talking about there, especially I know Mr. Poe Style does too, especially when he has to get into his old Poe makeup and everything.
I have to give you guys props, though. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I get these big ideas, and I'm so impatient that most of them never come to fruition. I have these huge ideas that I'm thinking about all week long at work. These scripts that are going on in my head, I got to do this, this, and this. This is hilarious. I'm laughing about it, and then I'm like, I don't have the time for this. And so they just fall to the ground, man. All my intentions fall to the ground. So you guys have these great ideas, and I love watching them. I'm sitting here laughing my butt off watching your videos.
Well, there have been times where I come up with an idea or a couple of ideas, and I'm like, I have to choose one. Or is there a way I can combine these things? And I was telling Phil earlier today when he called, because I'm still working on my RoboCop Rogue City review.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've been trying, I've really been dragging my feet on it, but a lot of it's been because I have 18 hours of footage to go through.
Yeah.
So there's the game footage. I have to decide what I want to talk about, and then, I will kind of tell everybody, if you've ever seen my one video where, because I have my version of the RoboCop, my version of Terminator come on, they talk with each other and they have their own, banter and whatever. But there was a video for Hunt Down that I did about, I'd say a little over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago. I forget how long. And I did it Mystery Science Theater style, where they come into the theater, we sit down, and we're reviewing the game, and then they get into it with each other. Well, I decided that for this RoboCop video, we're going to do the same thing, but it's just going to be RoboCop and me in the theater. And he and I have both, not only has he starred in the game, but he's also played the game, and he and I are going to be reviewing the game together. So when you have to script something like that and figure out how you're going to do it, sound effects, then you have to make sure that you're not using any kind of music that is going to get copyright strikes or copyright claims, which I still get those even though I've licensed stuff. And I'm just like, you dirty, rotten dog people, I paid for this. And then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. They never say I'm sorry. They don't. I've read the Riot Act too. That's another thing that's a pain with being someone who makes videos for YouTube, trying to make sure I mean, I don't have time to be telling these people, listen, I'm subscribing to your service 10, 5, you know, $10, $15 a month, whatever it might be. I mean, for the one, it's only $7 a month. And then you get a copyright claim, and I'm like, I'm one of your subscribers, you moron.
Right.
You know, then I gotta file I gotta have a rebuttal against the copyright claim, and then 30 days later, it finally gets released, and I'm just like, I don't have time for this stuff.
All right, but the question was how much time?
How much time
does it take you? How much time would you say you spend a week on YouTube?
It depends upon the video, of course, so it's subjective. But it could be anywhere between 20 to 60 hours, depending upon the video.
Oh.
So just like James Rolfe has talked about, you know, he's given you a peek into how he makes a nerd video. And when I've watched a couple of those videos of his, I went, oh my gosh, he does the same thing I do. And because sometimes you'll have a video that's not as epic. It's just kind of like I'm doing a quick review. I'm telling a few jokes here and there. I might put in a clip of a movie or something. Yeah, and then that's it. And it's real easy and quick, so maybe 20 hours. But if I'm doing something that's going to be bigger, you know, going to have, you know, a lot of moving parts and stuff like that, it could be 60, it could be 80 hours in a week, and sometimes that could be 2 or 3 weeks for me to put that thing together. So, you know, you could be talking 240 hours that I put in. Not to mention people that I've, like my friend Olivia came over here one time, and she, this is the wig that she wore when she was Frosk in my Saw video, and I had her in the video 3 different times, so there's 3 Frosks in the video torturing me. That, you know, all of that took a whole afternoon. Then I have to edit it, and so yeah, it could take a long time. I mean, it's not a major motion picture, but I mean, 240 hours. That's a long time for a video that nobody's gonna watch.
Yeah.
But it's a passion.
Yeah.
I can't really. I mean, I don't know. I just do it for fun. You know what I mean? I can't put a lot of time into it, and it's all by the seat of my butt, keeping it PG. I put in a minimum of 50 hours of actual work at work each week. So as a bricklayer where I'm at, we have to work 10 hours a day, 2 hours for drive time, an hour there, an hour back, and then we do Saturdays and stuff too. So I'll have something in mind that I want to do. If I do a bigger project like Popeye for all the systems, I'll know ahead of time I want to do that, but it takes some time to get it out. I'm really enjoying finding obscure arcade classic games for the iArcade right now.
Nice.
For MAME. So I'll upload them and I'll try to do those. And I'm trying to do games that people don't really know a lot about so that they can discover them and play them for themselves. Because
Domino.
Yeah, Domino, man. And a lot of people do know about Tapper. And then Timber
Tapper.
by the same. Yeah, Tapper is great. And Timber is a really fun game. If you've never played that, try it out. I have a new one by Bally, not new, but by Bally Midway called Wacko. And that's a fun game that uses a trackball and an arcade stick.
I've heard of that.
It's a really cool game. It uses a trackball for your movement and the joystick for shooting. Bally Midway made this game as well, and the cabinet is all wacky too, all different angles, the way they made the marquee and everything on
That's
it.
cool.
We're 10 minutes over. In the private chat, Phil is yelling at us.
To get the heck off.
No, can we stick to the topic of time so that I can answer and then we can finish the episode? I'm sorry.
So how much time do I put on it? And when I come home in the evening, if I don't pass out in my recliner waiting for dinner, I'll go downstairs and I will play something and make a video for it. Aside from that, I do have Mario Brothers. The original Mario Brothers is what I plan on making a series for in 2024. When I get to it, I don't know. So it's all by the seat of my butt, really.
But it'll be done by New Year's.
Yes, New Year's will be the final episode like I did with Popeye, right?
So for me, like I work from home and I work, you know, thankfully I don't have to commute, but Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are my YouTube nights. But how it works is, and my kids have hockey on the weekends, so it's like I get up in the morning, I work, like during the week, I pick my daughter up from school. My boys are older. That's not a problem. I come back home, I work, I make dinner, then I play with my kids. And then when everybody's in bed, I will walk to the local Tim Hortons, get a coffee, and then work till about 5 a.m. And then go to bed, wake up 3 hours later, and do that. Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, those are for my wife, because she starts to get a little lonely by the end of Wednesday. So, but yeah, I would say, and my reviews, the actual reviews, are usually between 5 and 10 minutes, and I'll put 15 to 20 hours into every one of those. And that is from the experience of somebody who does this as a living. Now, I don't do it as well as I do for my job on my channel. Having a little bit of campiness is fine. It actually, I think, adds to the character of my channel. But it's always the little things, like my review last week. There's a guy that falls through the ceiling and crashes into the ground. And so there's like a drywall coming down and all that.
That was fantastic.
That takes no time at all. That takes no time at all for me. The lifting and tracking him to my hands takes no time at all. The 3 hour, or no, I didn't spend 3 hours because I did a sloppy job. Maybe the hour and a half that I spent just masking out these two fingers to make it look like he was in my hands as opposed to sitting on my hands. It's the stuff that you would never think of. That's the tedious stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, 15 to 20 hours for a 5 to 10 minute video. Now, a lot of that is writing the script. A lot of that is playing the game. And I feel like I have to get, like we said earlier, far enough in the game to give it a proper review.
Yeah.
If it's got an ending, I like to try to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always happen, but yeah, it's one of those things. And just to kind of loop it all around back, if I didn't love it, there is no way I'd be doing this.
Yeah.
Because I sacrifice sleep. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice my kid time. I'm not going to sacrifice my, spending weekends with my wife and my family and all that. But I will sacrifice my sleep because I love it. I'll sacrifice, a little bit of sanity, a little bit of stress.
That's not asking much, but go ahead.
The sleep is
I know
mostly
there's not much in that tank, but I'll take it. I'll sacrifice it. And it just comes down to if you love what you're doing, then it's not a job.
That's
Well,
true.
Yeah.
I said something to Phil earlier today that David Letterman, when he was getting near the end of his tenure on the Late Show, when he actually made the announcement that he was going to retire about a year and a half before, he said, when it's starting to begin not being fun anymore, that's when I know that I have to call it a day.
Yeah.
And he said, instead of being really excited to come to work, to do what I'm doing, if I'm thinking about, well, I can't wait to get out of here, then it's time to retire. And that's, his son was about 8 years old, and he's like, I want to watch him grow up. I don't want to be away. And this is a guy who's making $25 million a year or whatever, but at the same time, he does want to spend time with his kid, and I get it.
Yes.
So, I don't care how much money you're making. So, good, as much as I love David Letterman, and if you're watching tonight, Dave, thank you. But,
For sure.
but still, I understand.
He's a big fan.
Yeah, I understand why he retired. And if there's ever a day where this is interfering too much in my life, it's interfering too much with my daughter or my wife, and I either have to cut back or cut it out altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am at the point where my kids are adults now. So this is a hobby for me. I'm having a lot of fun with this. So this is for pure enjoyment for me. So at 400, this is more than I could have ever expected. So if you're here for me in the comments and you want to talk about memories you had with your brothers and sisters and friends and stuff, that's why I'm here. I love the comments. That's what it's all about for me. And if I can bring up games that you have never seen before, that's also what I'm about. So I'm here for the fun, guys, and I'm here for the
one of the best parts of all of it is being on Retro Bliss Rewind. Good night, everybody.
Hey, on that note, thank you so much for being here. And I want to ask you guys, if you're watching right now, Links in the description for everybody, except right now, Pose isn't on there, but when I get off here, his channel will be in the description. I want you guys to go on there and sub to everybody. If you're not already subbed to these guys, they have great channels. Like I said, it doesn't really... It just helps algorithm, gets the content out to more people, hits the likes, hit the likes as well. That also helps out a bunch. So with that, you guys have an awesome day or evening, and we'll see you next week. We're going to be talking about the Sega Master System next week. So with that, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Wow.